Yeah, you've got until December of 2027, I believe, when your grant expires, so.
Okay.
Alrighty. So let me share my screen. I guess first off, are there any, I didn't know if it would be worth me creating a shared folder if people are still going to be reviewing the plan, and I can turn on the track changes if you'd like to do it that way, or
I've gone through and I've put myself in reviewing mode. So all of my small edits can be tracked. I don't know if others are gonna dive into it super deep. I know Bill has reviewed it.
I have about 18 things, most of them tiny.
So-
I think maybe all of them tiny. I mean, there's some, I've done this before when you take a document and you go from one town to another and then you leave the town that you went from in there. There's one case of that.
Okay, so our
And there's a
edits,
couple other things.
our edits might overlap, so let's sit down together and consolidate it into one.
Okay,
Is that okay?
yeah,
Or if you just wanna give me your edits and I'll make sure they're all the same as mine.
okay, yeah, with regard to the edits, so, one of the edits, so is right at the very beginning. You had me titled as the EMD,
I fixed it,
you fixed it, okay.
yeah.
The other thing has to do with, something about partners.
key partners. Just below
I
the
don't know,
committee.
I don't know what the. Well, I'll leave it alone, but I don't know what the agency at natural resources has to do with our floodplain. Other than, I mean, they have the NFIP coordinators, I guess, and then. I guess DEC has river management, I guess that's why you have them in there, but.
Well, that
They
actually
don't-
should be, I apologize. So that actually should be river manager. Agency of Natural Resources, river engineers.
That is on, Department of Environmental Conservation River Engineers instead of
So-
Southern Region. Oh, floodplain
Yes.
manager.
So DEC, so the floodplain managers are under DEC, but the
Yeah.
river engineers are under ANR. So that's a good catch. So I've corrected that.
Okay,
First. Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, and I apologize if I left some other towns in there. I did actually finally get a successful plan approved.
Oh, I never do that when I use a document. Have I ever done that before?
More times than I can count.
No, I understand that fully. That's why everybody needs to take some responsibility to check things, right? Yeah, you
So,
don't need to apologize is what I'm saying.
so the big thing that they were providing, that BEM and FEMA were providing feedback on is, so in this case, you've got your top 5, but you still have to outline these lower rated hazards and kind of basically justify why they're not being included in the actions identified. So, and that's a change from last year.
Okay, that's one of the things we have to do today.
No, I've got all that, and that's probably
Okay,
where you
that's
saw
all.
I pulled a lot of template language from other plans to probably
Okay.
help fill in those
Yeah.
those hazards.
I don't know, I can just go through the things that I noticed. Or I don't know how you want to proceed. I don't.
Should we jump to table 8? And look at the highlighted things that you have? And then maybe we could go through some of our edits that jumped out.
Okay, that's the most important thing is table 8 is
Yeah.
at the very end, right?
Yeah.
That last part, yeah. Yeah,
Page 42, I think.
yeah.
I can make this bigger if that's helpful. So this is basically outlining or filling in all the requirements for FEMA. So they want to see the action and any kind of description that goes along with it, what hazards it addresses, the type of project that is going to be, the community lifelines that are being targeted, the area of impact, the lead party, and it has to be a single entity. It can't be like the town foreman and the select board. It has to be, you can list both of them, but one of them has to be the responsible entity. And then the grant funding source, any kind of partnerships, project time frame, and then prioritization.
What page are you starting on?
What page is this?
It's page 42.
Okay.
The first action is comply with the state floodplain regulations. If that helps. Did you find that?
Yes.
Let's see. Okay, I just put the file that I was working on a Google Drive. Would it be easier for me to share that with you, so at least you and I can work on the same document?
Sure, that's fine. Or I can create a Teams shared folder.
Okay,
Yes.
either way, I'm fine with either way.
We'll go into Google Docs, okay?
It looks like it
Drive?
did.
Okay. Sometimes I get formatting issues, so.
Okay, if you wanna do, put it in a Teams one, then that's fine. I can add it to that. That way there's no formatting, weird things. Sorry, I was just thinking rather than having two different working documents.
Absolutely. I've been starting now that I've figured out the easiest way to create this. Because I tried to do it with two other towns.
Yeah,
It turned into a nightmare trying to get privileges but now I don't know if I understand it. But it seems to be working very well.
so good.
I get it. Come on. Second, sorry about that. Why is it making? Apologies.
No, that's okay.
Sent
Did
you
you just,
sent you an invite.
okay,
Yeah, if you, I don't know if you wanna, you can pop it in whenever.
Okay, I just got it, so let me just drag it in and hopefully you get it here soon.
Close that one. And then there it is. Perfect. Love it when technology works.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
Here we go. So. Righty. So starting with complying with the state floodplain regulations, the lead party, would that be the planning commission chair, do you think?
No. I'm the floodplain manager, and I think whoever the floodplain manager after me is, they should be the one in charge of it. The planning commission should be busy about a whole bunch of different things. And the chair of the planning commission should not be the lead in this. The planning commission should do it. But it should be, because they write the regulations. But I think the floodplain chair, the floodplain manager should be the person that is responsible for that action. And I have a problem with the wording of that whole thing. There are no, and there will be no floodplain regulations, state floodplain regulations. They are gonna put out a model. So either this should be complied with them, with the state floodplain model regulations as described in 10 750, 10 VSA 750, I think it is. Let me look it up. Yeah, 10 VSA 755. Because that's where they tells you what you have to have. But the state has nothing to do with our floodplain whatsoever as far as regulation of the floodplain, and I don't want anybody after me to get confused by the fact that, well, we have to follow the floodplain regulations of the state. No, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
They have a model, and you have to, your regulations, if you're gonna have them, and if you want to belong to the NFIP, you have to have them, have to follow their model, and their model is gonna be a lot more comprehensive than what we have right now, because they're gonna require a bunch of stuff that the NFIP doesn't require.
But the town will review new state floodplain model regulations and ensure the town regulations comply or exceed according to 10 BSA 755.
Yes,
A better statement? Or would you like
that's
me
a
to?
better statement, because I don't want anybody to be confused by the fact that by the state regulations, there aren't no such things.
For a story, you're right.
And I think I mean, everybody else can jump in here. I just think that floodplain manager needs to be in charge of it, because he's the one, he or she is the one that is responsible for the town continuous compliance with the NFIP. He's the one that regulates the floodplain, and if he doesn't, or she doesn't, then you lose all right to have flood insurance in the whole town. So that's the person who's responsible, and that's the person that should be responsible for all the updates.
Well, she was good. I was impressed.
What was her name?
Dr. Pam.
In terms of funding, that would come out of the general fund, right?
Generally speaking, that you will probably be able to get from VDM and HMTP grant, but yeah.
Okay,
But it's easier than that, actually. The state sends out the model. They do develop the model, and you've got to follow their model, but you can make it more strict.
Mm.
So if you simply, it's written for you by the state. All you do is put your name in.
Mm.
Okay, but it's your regulations, not theirs.
but complying with those regulations if there's any cost for that, that's coming out of the general fund?
Yeah, that's the job of the floodplain manager, the compliance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's like what we do either, if there's a hearing, we do from the DRB, et cetera, et cetera.
Got it, okay.
Okay.
Is there a lot of volunteer time associated with that, or is that a stipend position?
Well, right now, the town administrative officer is paid whenever they do stuff. And part of that job now is the administration of the regulations we do have, which is flood and subdivision. So that's what it is. So it's paid by the hour.
We'll put, I would say, let's just put VEM grant if available, because I don't know what the programs are gonna look like
Right.
tomorrow. And would you say this is a high priority?
Well, it's gonna be really high priority in 2028, because by January 1st, 2028, you have to have done it. I just read the law today, because somebody told me they were taking over the floodplain. So that's why I was looking at the law. They're not taking over the floodplain, they're going to make your regulations in your town comply with their regulation, what they want, and not what you want. So it's NFIP plus is what the regulations will have to be.
So moving down to date the road erosion inventory, which is due in 2027. Would you say that the highway supervisor is in charge of that, is the lead?
Yes.
And do you know has the town applied for a grant to?
Yeah, I think it's like a category A, Better Roads grant. We do have that. I don't remember it might be good until the end of 27. I can actually look that up really quick.
You said that was a Better Roads grant, and any other funds that'll come out of the time that the highway supervisor has to vest would come out of the highway fund. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that's correct.
And would you give that a low, medium, or high priority?
I would say a medium priority. It looks like award end date for that grant is October of 2027, and that is a Better Roads grant.
I would think you wanted to, I think you would want it as high.
You think so?
They've got to do it.
Okay, I would change that to high then.
It's a mandated.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So I was looking through the reporting not too long ago. I feel like there's a new report that's due this year, and a lot of towns have not complied with it. I don't know.
There are wait a minute, there are periodic goals that had to be met. And yeah, 2025 was one of the goals. It was like 25%. We're like at 85%.
Yeah, we definitely met that.
Yeah, because of the flooding that we've had and with the FEMA stuff and everything else, while we're doing all that, we have done the roads that we hadn't already done the culverts on. And so, yeah, we're way ahead of.
I actually just updated more segments today, so yeah, it's something we're working on currently.
Anyway, I'm just gonna look up. Okay, so moving down to the, to updating the culvert inventories. Again, would the highway supervisor be the lead on that?
Yes,
And that would come out of the highway fund?
yep, that's correct.
And would you rank that?
I don't know what you rank. He's gotta do it all the time. Whenever they do a culvert, he's gotta do it. So once the inventory is done, then it's a matter of just keeping it up to date. So is that a high priority? I think it's pretty important.
I think it's very important. I use that all the time, so I would keep it at high.
Okay.
Moving down to review and update subdivision regulations. Um, Lead party, the planning commission chair.
Or would that be the development review board chair?
Say again? No, the development review board is just a judicial
Oh,
form.
okay.
That's
okay.
just a judicial. It would either be the planning commission chair or again, the administrative officer who, you know, who deals with it all the time, but I think it could. I'd rather see somebody who was doing it every day be in charge of it. That's what I would, that's me personally, that's the way I look at it. Because, does it need to be updated? Is. It's just that the planning commission isn't involved in it every day and they're not. This planning commission is not honed in on what should be done. Like, cause they don't do it often. They don't deal with it often.
Mm. But typically, would the planning commission chair be?
When I was in Springfield as the administrative officer for Springfield,
Mhm.
they didn't do anything without me. I mean, I told them what they're doing.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I told them what they're reviewing, but that was just me.
Yeah.
You know, you can't recover after you be an attorney for a while, you just keep being an attorney. So anyway, I don't know. It depends on the person that you have.
It's a
The
tough one.
planning
It's like,
commission-
you know, it's like if you have, like, say there's culvert replacement, which there is on here. There's two pieces to that, actually. There's the actual replacement, and then there's the administrative piece of making sure all the paperwork is put together and you get the reimbursement and all that. So it's,
Yeah.
that's, it's kind of a
It
similar
should be the
thing.
job
It's-
of it should be the job of the administrative officer. That's what it should be. If that person is functioning properly, he makes sure that the regulations he's enforcing are staying up to date.
Would a partnership, as this is labeled, would that be the planning commission chair then?
Partnership, okay, administrative chair partnering with the chair of the planning commission.
Okay.
the town general fund.
Are you okay with that? Do you think that's a good idea?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yes, because they're the one that's kind of, they're doing the everyday. But, yeah, because they're probably doing all the research, knowing what needs to change, that kind of thing. Is that is?
Yeah.
And then I put general fund and volunteer time? Or is that all paid time, do you think?
No, I would say the planning commission doesn't get paid, right?
No.
No, so I would leave volunteer time the way it is. Is that a high priority?
I don't think so, but
Would you say a medium
yeah,
or low?
no, medium.
Yeah.
Unlike the flood regs, they aren't something that
Mm,
demands that they be kept up to date.
yeah.
So down to updating the list of vulnerable population. Would the EMD be the lead on that?
That would probably make the most sense, yeah.
In partnership with, in our town, the partnership would be rescue.
Yeah.
Yes.
EMS and fire.
Yeah,
And so that's probably mostly volunteer time.
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
And the goal is to update that on an annual basis when the LEMP is being updated.
yes.
Yep.
The vulnerable population information goes into that.
Would,
And let's go ahead.
yeah, would you also have Grafton Cares involved with vulnerable population? Besides the rescue and fire? Just a thought.
Yeah, who besides them?
Grafton Cares.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too, Grafton Cares.
That all capital when it's CARS, or is it just capital CAES?
Yeah,
It's capital C and then A or.
Yeah, I don't think it stands for anything.
No, it doesn't.
Gotcha. And what would you give that, a low, medium, or high priority?
if there's a flood, I'd say hi, but
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Kathy. I think if we want that list, we need to have it right when it's available.
Capital plans, so area of impact is, capital plans to upgrade trucks every 7 to 5 years. From every 7 years to 5 years. Yes, I can still talk. Oh my goodness. And that is the impact of that would be townwide. The lead party, I don't know why I had planning commission. Just who decides on? I don't
I
think
would
that's
say that the capital budget committee chair
Yeah,
and the highway supervisor.
well, doesn't the select board also have some authority there, especially
Well, the select board has to vote on the proposal from the capital budget committee. So I think that would be covered there, right?
yeah, I think the planning commission hasn't been involved in that. For, I
No,
mean, we know the last
no,
time.
the select board.
and
She's
select-
saying,
No, yeah, but nor the select board, but what the select board approves it. And then actually, the whole budget is approved by the town.
yeah,
By a vote in the town at the town meeting, but it's the capital budget chair.
Okay.
And the highway supervisor.
and that would be part of the highway fund.
capital.
that's actually the capital budget fund. You could even go specifically and say capital budget equipment fund.
Ship with the select board because they ultimately make the final vote on the.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, they are the ones that. Put it into the budget. The ultimate vote, of course, is by the town, but I mean. At the town meeting, but it's the select board who puts it into the line item for the budget for the people to vote on.
We put 2030 for a deadline.
We have already transitioned the vehicles to
Okay.
every 5 years. So I would feel okay if you even put 2025.
You give that.
I don't know, I mean, now it's a low priority because now we just have to maintain it.
Yeah.
The LEMP to include a line of communication annex.
Hmm. What would that include?
Believe that came up from a discussion. Um,
Hmm.
about response communication during say a flood event. I think that came up as, coming up with a better system of notifying.
Okay.
We already have, well, let's leave it, let's leave it,
Wouldn't there be a command
yeah,
system?
let's leave it just like it is in the lead party be the EMD, because we've written that up, what the first steps are in the first half hour of the flood happening.
Yeah,
So we have a one pager on that already. I think it's part of the LEMP.
it is. Yeah, I don't remember, like, it's like steps for activation or
Set for activation, yeah.
something like that.
And it grows as the damage gets more widespread. That's how it goes. But let's leave it that way to make sure we do it.
Yeah, I do think overall communication can always be better, but
Bill,
yeah.
is that part of the command system that Eric was speaking of?
I mean, I think it's all looped into when there's an emergency, just response times, which would be at the command center, which is probably what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So it's specific, I just want to make sure it's specific to like the EOC, the people that are in the town going to be responding to an event. It's not necessarily line of communication out to the community.
Correct.
That's
It is.
another.
When it happens, who's notified and how that notification spreads depending on the severity of what's going on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So protect power lines and roads by inspecting and removing hazardous trees and the road right away. Highway supervisor?
Yeah, with coordination with GMP if there's wires down.
Yep.
But from our point of view for the town, yes, the highway phone.
So would the tree warden be part of the conversation, do you think? Or do you think it's more just between the highway supervisor and GMP?
I was just gonna ask, where does the town fire warden fit into this equation,
The
but
tree warden, well, every
The
town
tree warden.
by law has to have a tree warden. If it isn't,
Yes.
if there isn't one, it's I guess, the chair of the select board.
don't worry, we have one.
We have, okay.
Yes.
That's Eric.
It is Cynthia
Oh, Cynthia,
Gibbs.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. So, let me look at something here. Going back, the capital, let me just go back. The capital plan update, you have the partnership with the WRC. Why is that in there? Go back up to it.
I
Capital.
actually changed it to the select board. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't mention
Very
that. Does
good.
that make, yeah.
Yeah, and the same with, the partnership on, the lead party would be. I think the lead party still would be the highway supervisor with the in partnership with the tree warden. Instead of the other way around, right?
So highway supervisor and tree warden as the lead party and then GMP as a partner.
Okay,
Yeah.
This is actually structure and infrastructure where I see the tree warden actually possibly putting together like a tree management plan kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
2029, a good date for project timeline?
Yeah, Yeah, I think that's fair.
And then that would probably be highway fund. And then volunteer time. If the tree warden's involved at all, I'm assuming that that is not a paid position. Oops, did I lose everybody? Just had a hiccup.
Okay, we're back. I'm not sure what just happened.
Go.
But so up above, again, in the protecting the tower lines and stuff, the area of impact isn't townwide flood.
You're right. I just noticed that. Townwide road right away, do you think? Or is it
Yeah.
townwide?
Yeah.
Yeah, and, well, yeah.
Yeah, you wanna keep
I
the,
don't know, I don't know, if we need to be specific as invasive species or anything like that. I think just townwide roads or something like that.
So I put invasive species under the hazards.
Yeah, okay, oh, okay, great, okay.
And then where I think we lost connection, I was talking about the grant funding. So I'm
Right.
assuming it's highway fund and volunteer time.
Yes.
2029.
Again, WRC,
Yeah, she changed that.
okay,
I would consider that a high priority.
yeah, you wanna keep your roads open.
Right. So replace 2 large culverts on Fisher Hill Road, culvert 10 and 13, addressing floods. Area of impact is Fisher Hill. Highway supervisor's the lead. I put highway fund. Any general fund, do you think? Or is it just highway fund and V-Trans grant?
Instead of general fund, I would probably say capital budget. And then, yeah, the V-Trans grant would make sense.
It's 2030.
in the partnership, I think we should tie back to, emergency management.
Oh, okay. So emergency management director,
Yeah,
okay.
Involved with that.
I have a question under funding. Does, if it's flood related, does FEMA come in play here?
if it, what we hope it happens, that it gets torn out by some flood and they pay for it, yes. But I think that just the emergency management director should be aware of it and be involved with the highway supervisor. And again, when Danny was supervising and I was working here in town with him, he and I would talk about this stuff all the time. As emergency management director, I would talk to Danny about it all the time. You know, what are we doing this? What are we keep our roads safe? And the work he did made a big, huge difference. I mean, all that stuff, all that we did to fix to go along with the roads program that we have to have done by 30/35 or whatever it is, all that stuff that we've done has made a big, huge difference in town. The amount of the lack of damage from flooding on many of our roads is because of that work. So it's very, very important to be done, so.
To answer your question, Kathy, there's so there could be potential mitigation funds that could be applied to that if it was damaged prior.
Yes, yeah.
But typically Um, typically FEMA, there's not a lot of that funding available, especially right now. A lot of it's going towards buyouts and floodplain management.
Okay.
But if it's a repetitive damage culvert, that it could probably qualify. Is that a high priority?
Yes.
Mhm.
We have a large culvert on Stagecoach Road. So that's also capital budget, probably.
Yeah. Could we put a culvert number in there just to have it? Is it 31
Two,
or number 2?
or which one? One replacement, the one that's most important is two.
Okay, could we,
But I don't know that we're referring to two here because it says large culvert. Two should be, it has to be upgraded, but I don't need it, I don't think it needs.
would it be large? Do you know where 31 is?
Yeah,
Obviously the other end of the road.
31 is a huge culvert now, it's like whether it's a 6-foot culvert, it's 5 or 6 feet.
That might be what they're referring to. Or what we were referring to.
Maybe, but the one that's
You-
more important is culvert.
Didn't you just apply for a V-Trans grant for that? Not just, but
No, not for that one. We did
Okay.
for the Fisher Hill ones, but that,
Didn't you
didn't
do
come
for
up.
number 2 also?
we did the HMGP
Oh, GP, yeah.
for Stagecoach Road, but we're not seeing funding from that.
Yeah.
So for this one, I would say it'd be culvert number 2. That
Not
seems to be-
32?
Nope, just number 2.
Okay, gotcha.
Stagecoach is one road, one word. Yep, everything
30.
else looks.
Okay, cool. So high priority
Yep,
down to, we have the culvert numbers there. Okay. So down to Eastman Road culvert.
that one would be number 13.
High priority.
Yep.
And replace Hinkley Brook Road culvert.
What number is that one?
Hinkley Brook, it's number 33.
33.
Information is super helpful, especially in 5 years.
Yeah, nobody's gonna know what one on Hinkley Brook Road.
Yeah, so you changed the title on Stagecoach to replace culvert number 2 on Stagecoach Road.
Yes.
Good, okay.
Correct. Yeah, and then culvert 13 on Eastman Road. Fisher Hill already had the culverts, and then we just added 33 for Hinkley. So same thing, capital budget.
What are you doing 10 now? Because that's already in the grant. 10.
On Hinkley Brook, 24.
Fisher.
No. That is now waiting for a flood to happen to take it over.
Be quiet here.
Yeah. I'll say that quietly.
So GMP power to install the line redundancy to separate 3-phase power lines on 121. That's going to adjust ice and snow. The lead party is Green Mountain Power.
Yep.
Grant funding is from Green Mountain Power.
Mhm.
Partnership with Town of Grafton. Have we gotten an update on the timeline on that? Do you know? Is it
We
2026?
don't have a specific year. They recently came to a meeting and they're hoping to do more work out in Houghtonville in the summer of 2026. So I feel like by 2027, we should be fully upgraded to power coming from Westminster. But they are currently on 121 right now.
And they're almost to town, right?
They are,
The
yeah,
village, I mean, almost to the village.
yeah.
Does that include also Parker Hill? Because they mentioned Parker Hill Road.
No, I think this, in terms of this plan, it doesn't.
Okay.
But I think Parker Hill Road is part of their larger plan for the whole town.
Okay.
Does it, doesn't Parker Hill come off 121? Or do they come off the other way?
Comes off of 121.
Well, then, yeah,
Lower
you'd be,
part, the lower part where it's 121 and Parker Hill, the lower part where the river's closest, that always floods.
Does your power at your house come from 121 or from like Cambridge Port Road?
I
It must come from
Which-
121 because they're about to go
well,
under.
then, yeah,
Yeah.
then Catholic's all part of it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
Left that as a high priority, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So next down to experiment with battery backups at points of distribution. Lead party is,
That's ongoing.
Yeah, that is ongoing, but I would put Green Mountain Power as the lead party on that. And maybe the town as the partner.
we want to elaborate on what points of distribution are.
No,
Say
Do
again,
we know? I remember this discussion, but no.
the points of distribution
yeah, like what are the points of distribution
for the
for the
batteries?
battery backups?
Are you talking about once they're installed? Or are you talking about who gets them?
I think who gets them, I think that's how we
Well,
described it as a point of distribution. Would
The,
be-
the program has evolved. At the very beginning, they just said they had it available and it was a pretty good price and then it went to, well, if you were on certain lines that went off all the time, they put you on them. And now it's, I don't know.
I think it's anybody.
It's anybody, and I think that you have to pay something, but it's not as expensive as it had been when they first introduced it. And because the whole idea of this is that they won't ever lose power in the town because they'll pull the power from the batteries. The person that has the battery doesn't own the electricity. They can, that battery is used to feed everybody who doesn't have power at the time. That's the way it works, so. So the more batteries they can put in, the better coverage they have, and I think that's why they rethought it, and I think that's why they're doing it, so that they can get a lot of backup power in the batteries.
Yeah. Do you think experiment is the right word to be using here, or do you think it's just a continuation of providing battery backups through?
I think they've gone to doing it, right? I mean, that's the plan.
Yeah.
That's what I understand, so. I
Can
would take out experiment with and just put battery backup at points of distribution.
put ongoing?
Could be, yeah. Right now, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
continue to build out battery backups at points of distribution, and then under project time frame, I put ongoing. Is 2030 a goal to have that completed, or should I just keep it as ongoing?
I would say ongoing because right now it's ongoing because they want to get in as many as they can. And how often, about once every 6 months, they have another push, right? I mean, that's what they've been doing, had meetings in the community.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think also they're trying to improve those batteries. It seems like this last distribution wasn't more of an improvement too to the battery, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Are they the Tesla batteries? Or is
no,
it,
I think they went to this other battery that has has less potential to explode. Not that, I'm not saying Tesla has a huge potential to, but it's built in such a way that it's just different from Tesla. What they're using now is different.
yeah, it's the lithium battery that's the issue.
Yeah.
'Cause I was in Florida last fall and all of a sudden all the homes that got flooded in the Tampa area were burning
hmm,
because of the lithium batteries, whether it was a Tesla vehicle or it was um like battery operated lawnmowers and things like that. If they mixed with the salt water, they would catch on
Oh,
fire.
gosh.
Yeah, fire, yeah.
So yeah, it's not one thing, it's another, right?
Great.
So
But I
that's kind
just
of
know the last couple that were put in were not Tesla, that I know the people, that's the only way I know, I haven't
Hmm.
followed the program, but I know they weren't Tesla.
I haven't followed it super close. I do think that next one down is just a duplication of the one we just talked about.
so I will go ahead and remove that one.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
So we had them over here. So points of distribution. Hmm.
I
I
guess
don't know, I don't know what that means, I don't know what that means, I like the second title better than the first one. I like
Okay.
the battery bank program with GMP.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm. Because lots of the folks that were losing their power were concerned about that lack of communication because of health issues and um
Yeah,
and trying to
Back-
communicate with
I'm
somebody.
sorry. Sorry, Kathy. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, a lot of those issues with people that didn't have any backup in terms of a generator, they wanted the battery just to be able to communicate with folks because they had significant health issues. Like they might have been on an oxygen tank and they, you know, didn't have the power. And trying to communicate with somebody to get help.
but I don't think that was part of the Green Mountains program. I don't think they were targeting that group of people, were they? Not that I know.
Not that I know of. I know it was a benefit for those, of course,
Yeah.
but I think they were targeting the people that had shown that they were out more than others.
Right.
Back through my notes to see if I can refresh my memory on the points of
Okay.
distribution.
Yeah.
And when I think of community point of distribution, I'm thinking of a place that you have that, and I don't think you have anything that formal in the town of Grafton, basically where you can come and pick up goods or supplies.
I think,
Town
I don't
hall.
know why the term points of distribution is in there. There were the second one down here with targeted areas with numerous outages. It was the distribution issues that
Right.
were directing them initially.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In the last meeting we had with them, one of the last meetings, cause I'm on one of those areas. Well, we can't get there yet. It's gonna take a while. And in the,
Yeah,
like people up on Cabell Road, were having an issue. Um, or that's an issue, we haven't solved that yet, but we'll do the battery backups.
So I'll probably end up deleting that if I don't find any notes on it. So research the feasibility of adopting the community rating system.
The lead party should be the floodplain manager.
Mm.
And the partnership with that is the NFIP coordinator of the state of Vermont.
So that's general fund.
Yeah,
And any volunteer time, do you think associated with that or no?
yes,
Yes, okay. And then I had a goal, project timeline of 2029,
that's fine.
and then a high priority.
Mm.
No, it's medium priority. It would be really good for the people who have flood insurance, but as you told us, Stephanie, no one in town has flood insurance. So, anyway, I don't know what's gonna happen with that, but the other thing is with the remapping of the floodplain, 25 parcels, the houses on 20, and well, for the most part, all the buildings on 25 properties have been removed from the floodplain if FEMA, when they do the new maps, follows this engineer findings, there'd be 25 less houses on the in the floodplain because they corrected a lot of their errors from 2005 or 2007.
You've spent some time reviewing the draft maps.
Yeah, I've done that, all that, and there's probably maybe 10, maybe not that many, that might be added, but, that, they need to review, I need to give the people an opportunity to have an engineer review their parcels before they do that, but there's a few that will be added.
Bill, were you also recommending it with those changes that people stay with the flood insurance? Because if they drop it, it would be very expensive to get back on.
Well, if those people that go out of the NFIP flood plain, I always recommend they keep it, but legally and for their protection with regard to what you're saying is if they are not in the floodplain now and they don't have flood insurance, and when the maps come out, there's a 90-day period when the maps come out in the fall or maybe December or January, when they come out, you got 90 days and if your house is in the floodplain, you better buy insurance then, because then you're grandfathered forever as long as you keep the insurance up. But if you don't buy it when you're not in the floodplain, and it goes into the floodplain, it's really expensive. So that's when you have to make the decision.
That's something you're willing to put into the Grafton News to notify folks?
I'm gonna talk to all those people personally, but yes, but there's nothing they have to do now, but be within it. Whenever FEMA comes out and said, these are the maps, and you got 90 days for the town to comment on them. And then then FEMA won't adopt them for 90 days. During that period, that's when you gotta buy flood insurance in order to be grandfathered.
A few more. Oh, we have a few more. Do we want to continue finishing this list, or do we want to schedule another time? Just want to be aware of everybody's time.
I'm fine.
I'm fine to keep going.
Oh, the lead party, I put the administrative officer right with the state, okay, yeah.
And then, so moving on to educate and inform property owners of ways they can mitigate damage to their properties. All hazards, outreach and education, townwide property owners. Who do you think the lead party would be on that?
This would be this should be part of the community rating system. This is what the community rating system does. That's what you do. So, I don't know if that you need a separate item, but if outreach and education, I don't know how you should do this, but it would be the same, the floodplain the floodplain manager,
All hazards, including like ice, snow, and invasive species. So it's just education on all the hazards. not just
okay, on all their
floodplain.
property, mitigate damage to their properties, yeah.
And doesn't Wyndham Regional, they offer a lot of workshops and trainings. As a partner?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Huh.
Okay, I would leave it as the EMD then.
With Wyndham being a partner, it sounds like.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay.
And what about VLCT?
Well, that's what I was thinking too,
Hmm.
but let's leave it WRC.
Food Vermont League of Cities and Towns too, as a possible.
Yep. Okay, yeah, you could, I would put them first and then WRC.
Okay.
I mean, because they're our insurer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To your time and some general funds if you like print out stuff and
Yeah.
everything. And I have that as a 2029 timeframe, and right now is a high priority. Do you keep that as high?
Yeah, probably. What was the one just before this one?
Medium for adopting the community rating system.
Okay, yeah, I'd leave it at high.
Okay. And then these are the rollover actions from the 2019 plan. So, townwide drainage study. So townwide flood hazard areas and river corridors. Planning Commission, or do you think that would be the floodplain manager?
Well, I would put the floodplain manager with the planning commission as the partner.
Does the highway, will the highway, have a partnership here? Highway crew?
Okay, yeah, put the highway department with the planning commission under partnerships. That's what I would think. That's my opinion. I don't.
No, I agree.
General fund and volunteer time. And then 2029 deadline, high priority.
I'd leave that medium.
Pursue funding for hydrology study and preliminary design for Cable Road Bridge number 18.
Mm.
Wait a minute, can we go back to that townwide drainage?
Sure.
I would rather that be the Townsend Road southern branch of the Saxon River drainage study. Because we just went through the main branch and that was the West River study we just went through. That is the basis of the new map, of the new FEMA maps. I don't think that we need to restudy that, but we do, the Townsend Road area, so the south branch of the southern branch of the Saxon River, south branch, what they call, south branch of the Saxon River, whatever the real title of it is.
I have no.
Townsend Road, that needs to be studied. So I'd rather just change, if you just change that, and it would be, where area of impact would be the area of the southern branch of the Saxon River flood hazard areas in river corridors. That's what I think. I don't, if we're gonna. That's what needs to be done, and then the other can be done at a different time. But they've done a lot of really good work on those preliminary studies, as well as doing a lot of LiDAR work, even on the southern branch, but they didn't change anything as far as the map goes on the southern branch.
Townsend Road is in the town of Townsend, correct?
Yes.
Just want to make sure. Cool.
And it's basically.
In terms of the partners, did we already talk about that? Yeah, okay. Looks good.
Hydraulic study, preliminary design for the is it Cabell Road Bridge, number 18.
Yeah.
And Cabell Road, Select Board.
Now, again, I think the lead party should be, I would say town highway.
Okay.
And then the partners would be, the select board and the planning commission. The development review board is just judiciary, they don't have any role in that part.
Just want to make sure I heard you, the highway department.
Highway department and planning commission. Yeah, I mean, no, I'm sorry, select board and planning commission, but the lead party being the highway foreman. Partnerships, select board and planning commission, and take out the development review board
Got it.
and the WRC.
Would the town pursue any V-Trans grant for that?
Well, actually, V-Trans does, they never charge us, right?
Yeah, there's no cost to the
They
town
never
for
cost us,
the
so,
hydrology studies.
yeah, so I would put V-Trans.
Would that be a partner?
Well, no, they're not a partner in that sense, but they would. In a sense, they're the funding source because they're the ones that do it. They do it at their cost.
Okay.
They do the
So I don't know how
hydrology
you-
study, but they don't do the preliminary design, is that correct?
They don't do any design, but they'll tell you how big it's gotta be. That's the whole thing.
And then the design would come out of the general fund.
Yeah, but hydraulics and hydraulics, they'll tell you what it
Mhm.
should look like. They'll make suggestions of what should be put there. Yeah. The funds for actually doing it, are we talking about that too? Hydrology setting preliminary design. If we're talking about the design itself, that would have to be. Depends on, well, if they come up with a hydrology story, they tell you what it is. I would just say, I would end it with the hydraulics and hydrology study, period, you know, for Cabell Bridge. Cause they'll give you what you need to design.
She just did pursue hydrology study and funding for preliminary design. That covers it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
But I feel like the design, you might pursue a V-Trans grant, so I'm gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna still put V-Trans down here, because they'll do the hydraulic study,
Yeah.
so, 2029,
Yeah.
and do you think that's a high priority?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, pursue. Hydrology study and preliminary design for the Townsend Road Howbrook Bridge.
That should be worded the same way as the one above.
Yeah, she just changed it.
And then everything in there should be. The lead party and the partners should be the same.
So. Okay. Nothing. So take your time, I'll just mark that and make them the same. Include a review of the hazard mitigation plan and annual capital budgeting process and incorporate projects from this plan. I have the select board as the lead.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So town general fund and volunteer time, partnership. Are there any partnerships?
What did we say above about, capital budget? Was that a general thing about capital budget, or was it,
For which one?
well, when we're
The other
talking about,
action for capital budget?
well, include a review of the hazard mitigation plan in the annual capital budget. Didn't we talk about that up above? Didn't,
We switched the trucks from 7 to 5 years.
Capital plan.
oh, it was the truck, oh, it's capital budget with trucks, yes,
Yeah.
this basically should be the same as the trucks, but it should be for all the infrastructure.
So for the trucks, the highway, is it the highway? Did I look at that?
Yeah. And this would also be highway.
Go back down, go back down.
Hmm?
Yep, there it is. Continue, go ahead.
This should also be the highway and the review hazard mitigation plan in the annual covenant budget. Yeah, this should be highway. And then the partnership would be the capital budget committee.
You want the stove on?
Then maybe the EMD.
What time do you want to eat?
Okay, 5:15.
Hmm?
I agree,
EMD and capital budget committee would be the partners with the highway.
yeah.
So, okay, so you would make highway the lead party on that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you want to switch that around, do
No, yeah, I like that. I was responsible for a lot.
I don't know what this next one means.
Good with 2029 and high priority.
Yep,
Develop a long-term plan to address new municipal roads grant. Municipal roads general permit standards for prioritizing hydrologically connected road segments.
I don't know what this means because every year,
So this is a rollover from the past plan. So I think this was when the MRGP was first implemented.
oh, that's probably it. Yeah, and every 2 years, automatically that thing comes out. And one of the things that you made sure is that it meets those standards. So, and V-Trans designs what they send out to each of the towns to meet the FEMA standards for replacement of culverts and the funding by FEMA for it. So I don't think this needs to be in there anymore.
could we delete it, or do we have to say that it's
You
complete?
can say why it's completed and
That, we can leave it in there and stay, it completed and what is it? How do you say it when it's every 2 years? Biannual, how is that?
annually, which can also mean twice a year.
Done every 2 years.
Let's keep it simple.
Well, that kind of says it, but the title of the next one kind of says it.
So I didn't know if this is implement the plan each year and prioritize road segments as funding becomes available. So, but that's slightly different.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
this is MRGP.
Yeah, I like that one too.
And prioritize road segments as funding becomes available. Uh,
I
Well-
mean, those segments are updated whether funding's available or not.
well, no, I think, I don't think this one, I don't think needs to be in there because if you're not doing that, when you're doing it, you're not following the grant.
And the standards.
The grant and the standards, in order to they have them sign off on the grant that they gave you, you've got to have done that, so that you can take that one out. They have to do that. The town has to do that.
the segments that you choose, do you have a method to your madness or are you doing?
They're all ranked based on priority. So the highest needs ones are done sooner than,
Yeah, the highway does that, and then, and as we get them done, then they're marked off and we go to the next priority. And they were started with the high priority ones, and so all the high priority ones are done.
Mhm.
And so now we're getting down to the lesser ones, and as we if they get damaged during the storm and we fix them, they're all put back according to the standards. That's how you have to do it. And FEMA pays for you doing it to the standards, so.
Would it be a true statement to say that you're continuing to implement?
yeah,
That would.
Because you're not
That's-
completed, correct?
right, it's ongoing.
It's ongoing.
I'm trying to remember what is the final deadline?
30-35, I think. I know it was way out there.
2035.
Mischief.
30-35, 20-35, yes.
Yeah, 30-35. Sounds good to me.
Or,
It's not, Leah
and I
was,
think the past plan, the select board was identified as the lead.
Yeah,
That's
they would
probably-
have to be, yeah.
Say that again.
Yes,
Yeah, they would have to still be the lead with the highway supervisor as well.
Okay, the development review board doesn't need to be,
no,
nor the planning commission, probably,
No.
maybe the capital budget committee, maybe?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
And,
could probably do the same for the one above it too.
What time is it? Did I beat that? I didn't beat that.
Gotta give her half a pill, Kirk.
review and update continuity plans for government and operations.
What does that mean?
We have
Your
That- Coop and what's the other one?
cog.
It's Coop,
Uh,
continuing operations, and the other one is. I don't know, there was another four-letter acronym, Coop, and it was also C, but I forget what it is. And we've been through that, but I think I review and I think this should be left in there and it should be done, and I would make it 2027 or so. So that they make sure they have done it.
select board, town administrator.
I think the lead party of the funding source,
The lead party.
it's gonna be the town administrator and the select board that's gonna do it. And the lead party would be town administrator and the select board.
If there's one lead, would it be the town
Town
administrator?
adminis- Yeah, and then put select board as the partner down below. And take all the others out. Planning commission has nothing to do with it. Unless they wanna work on it. But generally speaking, it's done in about 5 minutes by sitting around in administrative offices and saying, this is the only way it'll work, right? There's only 3 or 4 people involved in the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, so
You'll learn.
I guess so.
Well, I know that Kim I know Kim has a plan to running the office, and we had one before, and it
Oh.
really has to do. I mean, the biggest issue we have from that is your separation of jobs, for instance, who writes the check and signs the check.
Oh,
So for the continuity operation, you have to have someone to take either one of those people's place so that
got
it
it.
doesn't fall to one place. That's just an example.
Okay,
And I think we have that plan done.
we do because the auditors ask for it every year.
Okay,
Yeah.
Your.
then I would say that, I would say the timeframe would be annually. I mean, you do it every year. But, let me start it over. So it isn't the town administrator as much as it is
Town clerk.
town clerk, treasurer, which is the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And the partnership could be with you and the select board.
Okay, that makes more sense.
COG was the continuity of government and continuity of operations.
Hmm.
Coop and
Coop, right? So I think Coop, I think is more of logistics. So if you were, for some reason, if the town hall were to burn down, where would you relocate and how would you implement your cog to continue functioning as a government?
Yeah, it would go to the garage. There's room at the garage. And they have all the same facilities, all the
Yeah.
communications and everything.
Okay.
Monitoring of this LHMP prior to the annual budget process. I think that is, you've already got that covered.
Yeah,
Wow. Annual budgeting process and inform the public on progress made to increase community awareness. That's different than the one above, because that's dealing more with projects. Or are you gonna continue doing the projects, but this is actually looking it over and letting. Do you think it's the same as the one above? I don't know.
I feel like it's separate. I don't know if the one above included the communication to the public. Which, I mean, I think we do that probably annually at town meeting,
Mhm.
mostly.
Would you say this one's been completed or ongoing?
I think it's ongoing.
And who would be the lead party?
I do agree with the select board and the planning committee. And possibly as a partner, the town administrator.
You say that this is a high priority?
yes,
Alrighty. Consider strengthening stormwater infiltration practices, recommendations for new development to improve flood resiliency and minimize erosion.
That's a mouthful.
I think. um,
Sounds like this is in the zoning, the bylaws.
I think this is already, I mean, this is part of, what you'd have to do anyway to meet our, MGRP, the MRGP, what is it?
Mhm.
Yeah,
MRGP.
yeah, I don't think this needs to be in there because that's what you have to do. If you're building, when's the last time we've had a subdivision where they added property, but, I mean, 5 units, a long time ago up by the highway garage is the last time. But anyway, those roads would all have to be built to town standards, even if they aren't gonna give them to the town. And the town standards would require all this stuff then. The stormwater filtration practices and all that, that would all have to be done.
So we can mark that as completed.
Yes.
Okay. View and update flood damage prevention regulations to consider extending provisions to upland development if stormwater runoff could impact flood erosion hazard.
Well, I don't know why this is written that way.
See if there's any more.
Because the flood damage prevention regulations has to do with construction within a floodplain. I don't even know what this means, so I don't know. I don't have it, I don't know what it means. I would take that out of there. I don't know what that means.
Does the town even have flood damage prevention regulations?
No, That's what I named when we wrote them. Those are our flood regulations. Those are NFIP flood regulations. And I didn't want to regulate a flood. I wanted to regulate the prevention of the flood. So anyway, that's what I just named the flood damage prevention regulations. But there isn't anything in those regulations that say you have to build a road a certain way, or you have to do this, that, and the other thing. It's how you develop your, where you can build and where you can't build. So I would just take this out. I don't know.
I need to put in a reason that, I mean, I have to mark whether it was completed or not, and if it wasn't completed, why. So I'm gonna put remove not relevant to the intent of the FDPR. Is that a correct statement?
Yes. Yes.
Identify property owners located within the special flood hazard areas or river corridor and develop an outreach plan to educate them on flood and erosion risks, mitigation ideas, local bylaws, and NFIP.
If this would be done by, let's see, the lead party is the floodplain manager. The partnerships with the town administrator and the select board. And then the timing of the project should be this year, well, at the most 2026, because we're gonna have, this is what we plan to do in the next few months anyway, right? I already have the list and we have the
Yeah.
addresses and everything. We're gonna talk to them right now so that people be aware of it. So, yeah, this is gonna happen right away. So I put 2026 is fine with me if you want to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think you'd say that's a high priority.
Yes.
Further investigate and proactively seek viable options and funding for conservation easements and buffer restoration to improve floodplain access, particularly in the Willie and Stiles Brook area west of Townsend Road. Riprap and berming have reduced floodplain access west of Townsend Road, putting homes and the road at risk. Passive restoration is recommended to restore floodplain access. Wow.
Did you
that's a-
like that?
That's a lot of words.
I think Eric wrote this.
Sounds familiar.
Okay. This is something that we'd all get hung if we ever tried to do. But, it's something that it never should have happened on there. All those burns along the creeks are causing a big problem and it just gets worse and worse. But the lead party on that should be the select board and the partnership with, holy cow, it would be,
Floodplain manager.
well, partnership with the floodplain manager and then with, the river management of ANR DEC river management or whoever they're with, ANR river management.
Engineer and the floodplain manager.
Yeah, he's gonna have to be involved. I hope I'm not around when they do this, but anyway, yeah. Floodplain manager. The reason I say that is the floodplain manager that they have has to have a real interest in the floodplain because they have to look at it all the time and they gotta watch what's going on. Because I take seriously the fact that FEMA can pull the right of anybody in town to have flood insurance if one person is not in compliance with the floodplain and the town does nothing about it. So it should be the floodplain manager. Yeah. But the select board should be the lead party. I mean, if they're not behind it, it is never gonna happen.
Is it?
Yay.
Nice
Okay,
job.
now can I go over just a couple things? I know it's late, but on
That's fine.
page 21, there was, damage figures from past storms.
Yes.
I don't know where those numbers came from, because for instance, in Irene, it was 3.5 million to FEMA and 1.8 million on the Fed aid highways, on the Federal Highway Administration. So it was 5.3 million altogether. And the 2023 flood, we're close with $800,000 on Eastern, we're close to $2 million, aren't we?
Yeah, I think I added a comment for that one.
Okay, and then the earlier ones, I don't know about
So-
96 and so on.
Yeah, so the new ones, that makes sense because so I pulled that data from the FEMA Public Assistance Funded Project Summaries. And so this is,
Oh, okay, okay, that would make sense then. They have 3.2. As I remember, it was 3.5, but you know, what's a couple $100,000? But it was, I remember,
yeah, this is the federal obligation. So if it hasn't
Okay.
been obligated yet, then it wouldn't show up in this. So if you could,
Well-
if you want to provide me with more up to date, and then it's only, like I said, it's only the federal portion, so it doesn't list. Because in some disasters, the feds will up their percentage, so I don't feel comfortable just automatically adding 25%. And I should probably note that this
Yeah,
is
but
only the federal obligated amount.
okay, the FEMA federal obligated amount was a little bit over 3 million, but we also had, which they fund separately, the Federal Highway Administration, because 121 is a state aid highway, and their costs, what they paid us for repair of the 121 was 1.8 million. And I don't know if that should be in parentheses or so something, because but that was all part of that. FEMA doesn't take care of state aid highways when it's under, because it's under the Federal Highway Administration.
Right.
So
Correct. And I'm sorry, which was this 2011?
2011, yes.
So the 3.2 is not correct?
Well, as I remember, it was a 3.5, but it could have been 3.2 with FEMA. If that's the number that FEMA says it is, and that's what, I know what it was. That's probably, it's probably 3.2. And I was thinking of the whole amount. And then it was 1.8 with the Federal Highway.
So I'll put a note, does not include state town match. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking at these numbers more and more, so this is, you probably can't see because it's tiny, tiny.
And then the only other thing I caught was, there's a couple of them. Yeah, let me give you these really quickly. They're just, on page 10, critical facilities, somehow we got a dam, the Holbrook Dam, and on Weather Brook.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the Broadside, Hillside Manor, and Lazy Brook trailer parks. Those aren't in our town. And then there's a Ferrisburg on page 33. Yeah, it says town of Ferrisburg.
Maureen, these are your comments too, correct? It looks like.
Yeah, I think I had just said, I don't recognize those names at all.
Yeah, apologies. You said
What's it say?
page 34? Bill?
33, mitigation goals, objectives. You have Ferris Brigida, the third paragraph under goals and objectives.
I think I made a note about that one too.
If I could do one more, the top of 35, it talks about zoning regs and subdivision regs. We don't have any zoning regs. We have flood regs. That's the flood regs and subdivision regs is all we have in town. We don't have any zoning regs. Oh, on page 9, under EMS, you mentioned that rescue is dispatched by King,
Hmm.
but you don't mention that the fire department is also dispatched by King.
Oh, okay.
And then,
Hold on, just wait a minute. She's finding the EMS.
okay,
I'm sorry, say that again.
Nope,
on the EMS, you have the rescue is dispatched, or EMS is dispatched, but you don't have that the fire is also dispatched by King right above it. It should,
Should
so
say
that
both.
the whole last sentence of the EMS could probably be the same as probably just copy and paste that last sentence of the first paragraph there into the fire. Yeah,
You said you had one more, Bill?
yeah. I don't know where you got those, on page 8. I don't know where
Information.
those durations of outages came from.
It comes
Holy
from Green
moly.
Mountain, Green Mountain Power.
Holy cow.
is that
So,
low or high?
That's really high. I mean, when's the last time you were out for 40 hours?
That's per year.
When's the last time per year you were out for 40 hours?
I don't know, well, if you have 7 per year, a few hours each.
Yeah, but generally speaking, it's not. We've had one that was 3 days that I remember and I've been here since 2006. Generally, 4 or 5 hours at the very most, and it doesn't happen that often.
Well, maybe that's why Green Mountain Power has highlighted us to get new power lines.
Maybe, okay. But if that's their stats, they know better than I, but
Well,
they might
here-
have one house that have that, but that's a long time. Oh gosh, I would have got my outside generator sooner if that were the case, so.
Yeah, Kathy, go ahead.
Yeah, up in Parker Hill, we've been out more than 40 hours. Several
But have
occasions.
you been out 40 hours 7 times a year?
At
No, it
least
isn't.
4, maybe 4 times a year.
Oh, per year, okay, all right. Okay, Kathy, you got me.
Gotcha.
struggle between, so they call it Katie and they call it Sadie. So they have an average duration of each outage. And then they have a Sadie, which is total average hours out. So Sadie
Okay.
means first a system average interruption duration index. It is calculated by multiplying the average duration of customer interruptions by their total number and then divided by the total number of customers in the system.
Hmm.
Sadie describes the total duration of the average customer interruption.
All righty.
Well, there you have it.
I got it from GMP. That's all I can say.
Well, good, that's good. No,
Did you have anything else that you?
No, but I have a question for you. Stephanie, you said that they listed that there is a place you can find the NFIP, the number of flood insurance holders in a town from NFIP.
She's thinking.
And I just wondered if you have anything, can you get the addresses of those people from the NFIP?
I can tell you, I can probably not, because I know they've even made it difficult to find repetitive
Okay,
damage.
okay, well, I don't need them. It would be interesting to know, but I don't need them because we have all the addresses. When I went through the maps, I put the addresses of all the properties that changed and actually where they stayed the same or changed or whatever. And I only put the properties where there was an effect from the mapping and we have all those. So we're gonna contact them based on what category they're in, so.
So this is I don't know if you're familiar with this. This is the Flood Ready website.
Okay.
So it's I can send you the link if you'd like, or I can pop it in the chat. So it appears that of the 55, which I think this is the brand new number. I think this is the draft number of E911 sites within the special flood hazard area. 5 have flood insurance policies.
Whoa.
And I don't know where this comes from. I would think it would be, would VEM have this data?
Well, I know more than 5 houses that have it. I being one of them. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah,
I
could ask,
I can ask Rebecca Pfeiffer if she has it.
yeah, she might be able to talk to you about more about this.
Yeah. Okay.
Sound good. So I will
Yeah,
make
sounds good.
those edits. Should I make this folder available to everybody on the committee, or and they can review it and put their edits in if they want, or do you want it to make it a small group?
I think if we keep it a small group, that way it doesn't, I think if we. Unless we put a deadline of a date that we need comments back by. People might just sit on it for a while.
So is there anybody else I should add to have access to this folder?
Planning commission,
No. Yeah, I mean, probably the planning commission. But again, I sent out the draft to them. And I haven't heard any comments back, and that was about a month ago, so I don't know.
I didn't know if you thought anybody else might be actively making edits to it, so I can just leave it as is.
Yeah, I think we'll just leave it for now. And I can share it with somebody if somebody wants to make edits.
Sounds good. So the next steps would be I make these edits. So we have the draft, then we need to submit it to, we can either do public outreach first and then submit it to VEM. You can do both at the same time. I don't know how you envision this. It should be,
You're asking?
I'm
I don't
asking,
know.
yeah.
I don't know that we'll get I mean, we've been telling everybody about these meetings, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and I guess we should have a public outreach meeting just because FEMA wants us to. Don't know that it'll do any good, so yeah, let's do a meeting with the draft and then go from there.
Yeah.
A select board meeting, talking to the select board, making them aware that the draft is ready and ready to go to Vermont Emergency Management, that would count as a public
Okay.
meeting.
We could do, yeah, put that together and invite all the public to the select board meeting? Is that what you're suggesting?
It's up to you if you think that would be
I think
easiest.
that's a really good idea. I think that would work best. Otherwise, we'll just be the same of us just sitting here talking to one another.
And waiting.
Yeah, so I think if we did that and gave them the opportunity to come to the select board meeting, that would be the best way to do it.
So,
You think so, Kathy?
Yeah, I do, because this last select board meeting, they had questions about the highway and, and we followed up on it, so I can see if we don't do it, they'll say, well, where'd this come from and how come we didn't have input?
Yeah,
Like, some input. We
Yeah.
invited them.
yeah, and FEMA wants them to have had the opportunity anyway, so that's the main thing. That'd be good.
So, I can probably have these edits done the next couple weeks and I'll just let you know when when I have a new version of the draft.
Good.
Okay, that sounds great to me, and I'll keep working through it. Yeah,
Good. Yeah, you and I can coordinate as you have time to get through it.
okay, that sounds great.
That's good. Well, thank
Thanks,
you very much
Stephanie.
for holding out with me for 2 hours tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's good. I'm glad we could get through it.
Yeah. And again, I thank you for your patience with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you
yeah,
for,
of course.
Yeah, thanks for everything, Stephanie. It's really good.
and thank you, Bill and Morgan, too, for your input.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Awesome. Okay, well, have a good night, and yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Okay, sounds good. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Hi, Kathy. Hi to Kurt.